Salutations, everybody. Um, the title of this one is called "She Is a Concubine." Got the definitions and everything locked in the phone. My baby mama got super mad at me because I called her a concubine. She said, "I'm Enoch's mom." I said, "Yes, but you also a concubine." Um, I'm still trying to navigate life. I write my notes and stuff like that in order to be able to get my thoughts and the things that I desire to say and to get these points and stuff out, and hopefully, this helps some other young men. So sometimes people agitate you and you agitate them back with the truth, but they have certain truths that they can agitate you with as well. And so, you know, you both are supposed to be, I think that people are supposed to be trying to get along with each other. And so if you find yourself in a situation where you guys are trying to agitate each other and it's going to no end, then you guys need to pray, maybe back up and regroup and try again. And so, so if sometimes people weren't taught to respect each other or respect another person, but I'm gonna tell you guys, man, respect is the number one thing that I feel like can sort of help or at least get you guys to another level or the next level. Because if it's no respect, then you don't have anything. It's not fair. So I wrote, it's not your fault your daddy didn't keep you locked in until you found the husband. That's not your fault. I feel like fathers sometimes maybe put or kick their daughters and stuff out too early, and then they end up in these situations where they dealing with men who maybe potentially either that they're not supposed to, or either men that they may not know have their best interests at hand. And I'm gonna give you an example. If you've been played by the last 2 or 3 relationships, of course, when you get into a new relationship, you're gonna think that this man is potentially trying to play you as well. And I've come to witness that most women play the blame game. You know, they won't say what they did or what they did to put themselves in that position or that situation. They'll say all the negative or wrong things that you did, even trying to be a good person or upstanding person. And I'm learning and seeing that no matter what you do or say, typically, um, there is no fighting. It's like swimming uphill, or swimming uphill against the tide. And so this is what I'm saying. Like it's a agitating thing, but this is the truth. So it wasn't my intent to make you a concubine. It's just what happened. It's just how it happened. And so I'm gonna get into some of these definitions so we can. So this is from Reddit, and it says a concubine is a woman who cohabits with a man without being legally married to him. For example, what's nowadays called a girlfriend. That's literally what it says. Cohabitating with a man. So if you got a girlfriend that's staying with you and you don't marry her, and whether she moves out or she stays there, it doesn't matter. She can be considered a concubine because you're not married. And so, I'm not saying these things are good or bad. They have had their the multitude of reasons for being good and multitude of reasons for being unacceptable. I think that the most ideal thing for you young men to do is to be able to get a woman that you really love and try to do things the most godly way, which is, husband and wife. But in this culture, it's just hard to find individuals that have that mindset of stability and wanting to really be with somebody. And so, part of the reason and stuff that that we didn't work out is because she cheated, and so you know not that I think it's very different from a woman stepping out than from a man stepping out. And when the woman do step out, um, you know, sometimes you may not, immediately bash or thrash, like, because I'm not that type of dude. You see what I'm saying? I'm more from the ism continuum, and so I'm more, do what you want, and I'm gonna watch what you do, not what you say, and based on how you act, that's how I'll treat you. That's how far you go with me. So, women, you gotta watch what you do and watch what you say. Some of the words that you say to a man that you think that you want him to be a pillar in your life, if you say like really harsh things to him, he can stop having those feelings of servitude and love and fidelity, all the stuff that you want. It's like nobody's going to give you unending love. Only God can do that. Like, and I've seen so many thankless marriages, man. I've grown up in church, and so I've seen how the deacons and people, really serve the people of God, and sometimes I see how thankless those jobs are. And man, I read a post that said it was just a man sitting and he was contemplating, and it said, how much disrespect does a man go through sometimes just because he wants a family, just because you want to keep things together and stuff like that. But when people are calling you out your name or being disrespectful, when they're mean, when they're upset, and they're being mean and radical towards you, don't think that that's going to change. And so you would be a fool to make a woman like that your wife. That's not, I don't think that's the wisest thing for you to do, because you don't want to get so mad that you chastise a person or something like that, or you take vengeance. And if somebody doesn't know how to talk to you, I'm telling you, vengeance can be one of the things that you think about, because nobody should be dealing with disrespect like that. You know what I mean? I can't deal with disrespect from an individual. Now, disrespect, if I'm calling a spade, and I'm not using a curse word, concubine is not a curse word. So if I call my child's mother a concubine, or I call my ex-girlfriends a concubine, which they were as well, then if you cohabitated with a man and you weren't married, you're a concubine, bro. If you lie, you can be considered a liar. So let me give some more of these definitions. In such cases, concubinage serve as a status symbol and for the production of sons. Read that again. In such cases, concubinage serve as a status symbol and for the production of sons. In societies that accepted polygamy, there were advantages to having a concubine over a mistress, as children from a concubine were legitimate, while the children from a mistress would be considered bastards. So even if you were a woman's concubine and you stayed in and you lived, it's still up from a mistress. A mistress is just maybe a broad you was dealing with on the street that didn't even come in your house, didn't even know, how you like things or how you needed things ran. And a concubine potentially could have became a wife if it weren't for these certain qualities that she maybe potentially had, or maybe the man already had a wife. And so Um, yeah, let me see. So, like, it says here, now you would say mean things and call me out my name. Those are the reasons that men a lot of times put women in the category of just girlfriends or friends with benefits or concubines, I forgot which guy this was, one of the artists, one of the entertainers in Hollywood, but he wrote up a, not just an NDA. Kai said he made the girl sign an NDA, but uh, he made the girl sign a paperwork, let's say that, saying that if the relationship didn't work out, that she is a guest in his home, and she would dismiss herself if the in the time and event that they didn't want to be around each other, or particularly he did not want to be around her anymore, because this was his home and he was inviting her to be in his home. And you know he said she can leave at any time, but in the event of her leaving, he wanted to ensure that she did not try to say she helped build or she helped do anything. So um, yeah, he dismissed her. I'm sorry, he didn't dismiss her. He was having her sign the contract saying that she would leave without a big uproar or a big fuss in event of you know in an event of them breaking up. So um, it says here, I certain things we can't come back from when you say, all right. And so talking about a person's deceased parent or deceased child or deceased loved one is pure evil. If a woman does that and talks about anybody that is in your family that is deceased, a loved one or a relative, in the event of her getting angry, you need to get away from that person. That is pure evil. And if first you cheated and then I bring it to your awareness, potentially years down the line, and I show you the reason in which I didn't marry you or I didn't desire to marry you, then you can't be mad. It's just like a woman telling me, I didn't want to marry you because you did A, B, C, or D. I can't, I can be eternally mad, but never should I disrespect her because of her opinion, especially if her opinion was brought with sound judgment and sound no curse words or no blatant disrespect. It was just an opinion, and opinion that we are finding out is definitely fact. Um, Certain things we can't come back from. I said that already. And talking about people's deceased loved ones, that's that's pure evil. They'll cap like it's you, but really, if you talking about somebody's dead loved ones and you're supposed to be somebody that loves that person, then how can they ever feel like they can come to you and talk to you or tell you anything? Like that's not right. That's just evil. So it is what it is. But maybe we all need prayer. Yes, it's true. We do all need prayer. But if I didn't talk about your dead grandpapa, your papa, or your daddy, and your dad is still, or your mom is still alive, then you know, it's like, it's just okay. It's just a line you can't come back from. That's all. And a lot of times, if you're gonna stand on it, then you stand on it, right? So that's what you choose to do, and that's what you choose to do. So this is why you get no ring. And if you didn't get the ring, you didn't win. That's what R.I.P. the Godfather Kevin Samuels would say. And he also would say, You gotta get quality, already made up quality females, man. You know, you want a female that has a job or profession or vocation. Get women that are already kind of higher up and doing the things in which they need to do, so that you know that they can fend and take care of themselves. Because sometimes, you know, um, if they're not already taking care of themselves, then it may be difficult for them to um, take accountability in their shortcomings. If you trying to tell him, hey, you know, tell her you gotta be able to do A, B, and C, you know, in order to thrive and survive, they think it's a big thing, you know, because they got a house or apartment or car, and these are all basic things that most people should have if you want to consider yourself successful or own or um, wouldn't they say even average, a lot of average people, if you want to be a successful average person, you know, you don't get credit for doing the basic. I don't get credit for doing the basic a lot of times. And so it's just what it is, just how it is. But if you got no ring, you didn't win it. All right. And Kevin Samuels said that. Now Goldie said, stop finding ducks. You know, we always looking in the gutter and shit. You know what I mean? And you know, you might look and be trying to get females, but you looking in the gutter. And so stop finding ducks, start finding eagles, as he said, and teach them to fly in formation. So I always did like that, and I remember he said that. You live and you learn, though. And young men, be careful before you have a child or before starting a family. Really consider your options. Really consider. I would say if you can't see yourself with a young lady for the rest of your life, then maybe potentially, you know, this is not something that you want to endeavor. It's not an endeavor you may want to embark upon. Now, me personally, I waited till my older age in order to have children, and so, you know, I did wait quite a while, and I thought that, you know, I was doing something. I know that, you know, that she knows her dad and that she does know her mom. Maybe if they don't have the best of relationship, but even with her pop, you know, and so this is just my views. I thought that that would make things better, and it did. I'm not gonna stunt like it didn't, but um, even in my case, there were other things that potentially, um, you know, signs and things that you may overlook that can, in the end, uh, have a devastating result on your relationship if you're not ready to, you know, deal with some of those things, or you don't have the patience to deal with it. And so, a couple more definitions I'm gonna give you guys before I get out of here. It said, what is the difference between a concubine and a consort? And it says here, a concubine is a woman who lives with a man in a non-marital but often recognized relationship, typically with a lower status than a legal wife. That's a concubine. A consort is the spouse of a monarch, specifically the title for a queen, consort, wife of a king, or a similar partner who holds a higher and more official position than a concubine. So a consort is higher than a concubine. Um, Concubine, lower status than a wife. In most contexts, a concubine was a secondary partner, not a wife, with an inferior social rank. She was often a woman with a lesser social status, a slave, or a woman of low birth. Legal differences. The offspring of a concubine did not always have the same rights and legal standing as the child of a wife. Yes, you are a concubine. You know, if she stayed with you and you had a baby with her, she is a concubine. She is one of your concubines until someone marries her, which, you know, be careful, like, you know, she need to be careful. We need to be careful. But until a concubine, I mean, it's sad that they think of it as such a negative thing. But the legal differences, like I said, the offspring of a concubine did not always have the same rights and legal standing as the children of a wife. That is the same thing that is happening now. If you're not married to that man, you don't have the same legal standing that you do if you are a wife. If you was a wife, you'd get half of my stuff. You have your own property. You have your own place in which to stay. But you're not, because I didn't make you my wife. And so that means that you are on your own, pretty much. Lesser status. You are a concubine. It's just what it is, man. Cultural and religious context. The practice and rules surrounding concubinage vary significantly across different cultures and time periods. In some cases, like certain interpretations in the Bible, the practice was allowed but implicitly discouraged. With biblical figures, problems often linked to their polygamous relationships. So, procreation. Concubines were used to have children, especially if the man's wife was unable to bear any. The children of a concubine often had lesser rights of inheritance than those of a wife, through their legitimacy could vary by culture and law. Sexual gratification. Concubines provided sexual pleasure and companionship, and sometimes a man would take them for his purpose even if he had no need for more children. Social status. In many societies, having a concubine was a symbol of wealth, power, and high social status for a man. Alternatives to marriage. In ancient Rome, a union with a concubine was sometimes an alternative to marriage, especially for men who wanted to avoid complications with inheritance laws and second marriage could create. Yep. Concubines primarily served to provide a man with sexual companionship and to produce offspring, which was a way to increase a man's prestige and family line. Particularly in cases where the wife was barren, they were a feature of many ancient and historical societies, especially for the elite and ruling class. And while they lived with a man, they held a lower social status. Concubine, a woman, concubine, a woman who lives with a man but has lower status than his wife or wives. So, yeah, they may not like it, but if a woman stays with a man and she's unmarried, she can be considered to be one of his concubines. So, you know, I think concubine is a hell of a lot better than saying a whore, or a whore is different. That's a lower status when you're talking about families and stuff like that. And so you still gonna have to watch the way and what you say, because people get upset, and it's just the way it is, man. So, and that's my talk for right now, for today. This is on my mind. Looked up those definitions and stuff, and I wanted to come back and let you guys know what it actually is and what it actually was. I love you guys. I wish the best on everybody. It's best to do it the godly way. Try to get you love and a family, and so let us keep contact and watch these godly people, watch how they operate, so that at least we can usher the world and our families and our children and our individuals that we love and care about into doing things the right way, the best way, the pure way, the holy way. See what I'm saying? Shout out to Kai Snap. Kai Snap, Drewski and Kevin Hart. I was watching their live, and man, oh my goodness, man, it really brought, a lot of laughter and humor. You know what I'm saying? Laughter is medicine to the bones, and I needed that. It was hilarious. Saying Kai and them in the chat, they were so lively and dancing around and making all these jokes. Kevin Hart was going in, but I say that to stuff to say, right? Out of all their lives and stuff like that, I rarely, I seen, the females and stuff that came in with the bottle girls and the girls that were serving, but Kai um, was showing his son and stuff like that. He said, told his son to come in and was meeting Kevin Hart and him. And I said, dang, Kai got a son. You know what I'm saying? I almost couldn't believe it, but when you see the similarities, it looked like, okay, this really might be his son. And then he, attested to it, said, man, no, this is my son for real. Told Kevin then, but I noticed that the lady, his child's mother was not there. You know what I'm saying? And whatever happened, whatever the story is, I saw Kai saying on other streams and stuff and telling Nikki and them that, he was looking for a girlfriend. But it just serves to say that him and his child mother, didn't work out. And then it's just like, when you hear these stories and stuff like that, you can tell that his son is black, and that his mom would be black because his son is black. So you start thinking like, what happened in order to make these things fall by the wayside? Was it, the conversations that they had? Was it because they felt like they wasn't getting the real money and stuff like that, or they couldn't see the vision? For some reason or another, they couldn't unify and build together, and it resulted in them, splitting up. I mean, he didn't even say nothing about that young man's mother in the chat. And at the point I was like, man, you never know what somebody actually went through with their significant others. And said, even for brother Kevin Hart, his son was on the chat, and it was tripped out, saying he's told Kai and them that his son was the one that told him about the chat and stuff like that. And I remember all the stuff that Kevin Hart would say in his stand-ups, and how he would be talking about his family, and and how his ex-wife would treat him and stuff like that. And it's a lot of things that people go through, but as long as a man is continuing to be on his purpose and trying to be upstanding, I mean, you be okay. Look at these guys now. And I do consider the fact, I'm like, I know, Kevin was over Kai and them house, for a little while, and it's tripped out. But I'm just saying, it gets greater later if you keep moving, keep pushing. You find yourself in another situation, a new situation, a different situation, potentially. If you don't forget the things that didn't work out in the past, and you know what you definitely don't want, then maybe this time you can find something closer to that continuum of what you do want and what you do need, what you do like, what you do love, what you do need, what you do, what you do. What you do. So yeah, man, that's all I can think of for now. But I was like, man, seeing them in the chat, spend time with each other and make each other laugh and stuff like that, and focusing on the positive. That's what I saw. Drewski said he was away from his family as well. Kevin was away from his family as well. Kai was, it was his stream, so everybody was at his house. But and Kai served. I saw that. I'm saying Kai got up there and did a bang up job at stuffing the turkey on people's plate. I'm like, Kai, man, I want that dark skin. You know what I'm saying? And then they rolled them because the turkey wasn't done. Oh man, it was just having a fun time, man. I like seeing that. I love that. And then LeBron was there and stuff too, man, shooting threes. I saw that. So it was just, man, really, really good vibes, really peaceful stuff, you know. But none of these guys was all caked up with their girl or not, you know. And not that you couldn't be or shouldn't be or wouldn't be, you know. It's a time for that when everybody dismiss themselves, but you gotta ensure that the one that you're gonna cake with or love upon is one that's not gonna throw things back in your face. It's not one that's gonna talk about your dead relatives and she get mad or he get mad. It's not one that he or she is going to um, just come back and say, you know, super hurtful, negative things to try to make you feel low or feel bad, you know? And sometimes I know you guys can get into situations where you feel slighted, feel misused, and you know, somebody got to be the bigger person. Somebody got to stop. And so, you know, yeah, that's what it is. But if you stayed with a man before and you weren't married, you were a concubine of sorts. If you were his girlfriend, you guys sleeping together. Um, that's just what it says. And so that's it. That's all I can think of for now. Shout out to Kai and Drewski and Kevin now, cause it brought me great joy to watch they lives and stuff like that. Those guys are pretty entertaining, and I'm hoping that they will do some movies or something like that, you know, in the near future. So, love y'all, man. Peace and blessings. It's STEM style. Salutations, y'all. Have a good one.